आनन्दमानन्द करप्रसन्नं प्रेमस्वरूपं ब्रजभावयुक्तं योगीन्द्रमेद्यं भवरोगवैद्यं गुरुं कृपालुं प्रणमामि नित्यम्. Heartiest best wishes to all the divine souls in the 14 lokas of this universe of Chaturmukhi Brahma on the occasion of the appearance day, Jagadguru Tam Jayanti and Sharad Purnima Mahotsav. What is the importance of this day we will discuss after a little kirtan. Shri Guru Deva Kripal ki Bali. Shri Guru
Shri
के युगल चरण पर सतमन बोलिए जगद्गुरु श्री कृपालुजी महाराज की। On this full moon night, known in Sanskrit, in the Vedas as Sharad Purnima, the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna bestowed upon the souls the ras of Maharaj, infinitely sweeter than the ras, the bliss of the world, is the bliss of the formless aspect of God, which is Brahmanand. And infinitely sweeter than that Brahmanand is the bliss of the personal form of God, Premanand. And the highest form of Premanand, Rasatamaha, the mixture of those rasas, Rasanam Samuho Iti Rasaha, Lord Shri Krishna bestowed upon the souls on this full moon night, also called Ras Purnima. So it was on this night that Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj chose to descend on this planet Earth in a little village in the state of Uttar Pradesh in Bharatvarsh. When he was growing up, nobody knew the special identity of this little child who had been born. However, from time to time, he would display some kind of indication of his future greatness and the work he was going to do. One such episode was shared by his classmates. In the village, children used to play on the tree. And little Maharaj was sitting on a branch with his legs hanging down, when his friend also desired to climb up, was finding it difficult to go up the trunk. Maharaj said, "Why don't you hold my feet and jump up?" The boy hesitated. How can I hold his feet? Maharaj smiled and said, "The day will come when millions will want to touch these feet and you are hesitating." But then he turned the topic. These personalities, Nitya Siddh, eternally liberated, they descend into the world and reveal pastimes, pretending to hide their originality. But once in a while, they do give an inkling of the reason why they have come to our planet Earth. Another such episode took place. The school took the children on an educational tour to Shri Vrindavan Dham, the Leela Sthali of Lord Krishna. There is a huge temple there called Rangadevji Mandir. When the children were going around with their teacher, Maharaj looked at the mandir and he said, "One day, I will build a temple here bigger than Rangadevji Mandir." And that was a forecast of the Prem Mandir to come in the coming years. When Shri Maharaj used to go to school, he would again engage in the process of learning. Now, learning is actually necessary for someone who has got ajnana. Such a person needs education from the outside. But one who doesn't have a touch of ajnana, who has come with the light of knowledge, again studies as a leela. So sometimes when the translation work had to be done in the exam, a piece was given in Sanskrit to translate into Hindi. Maharaj in the time allotted would make 3 translations and then write a comment there. From the student's perspective, this is the translation. From the perspective of erudite scholars and pandits, this is the translation. And with poetic touch, this is the 3rd translation in Padya. And that would irritate the teacher as well. So the teacher, rather than giving 100, would subtract 1 number and mark Maharaji with 99. That created the name amongst his classmates as Mr. 99. So, till the age of 14, he continued his studies like any ordinary village boy. And then he went off to Mahu. So Mahu is in Madhya Pradesh, where his elder brother, Ram Naresh Tripathi, who was 12 years elder to Maharaj, on whom Maharajji looked upon as a father figure, was a teacher of Sanskrit. The Shri Maharajji stayed there in his guardianship and was studying. So at the same time, it was self-study and taking exams from different universities. So he would go for the exam and return. And in a matter of 2.5 years, he completed a syllabus of 18 years of college study, including Ayurvedacharya, Sahityacharya and Vyakaranacharya. From Calcutta University, Delhi University, Kashi Vishwavidyalaya. So possibly he was refreshing himself that I am going to be preaching in the framework of the souls in Mrityu Lok, the earth planet. So how do they think? What is their perspective? Let me assimilate so I can present that supreme Vedic knowledge in a manner most palatable to them. And one night he was going on reading. It became beyond midnight, 2 a.m. when his elder brother happened to get up and saw, Ram Kripalu is still studying. He said, Ab band karo, stop it. Maharajji looked at him and smiled and said, Band karu, should I stop? He had some other intention. A new phase in his leelas is going to begin. So the elder brother said, yes, band karo. He went off to sleep. Maharajji closed the book and disappeared in the dark of the night. He then went off, unknown to anyone, to Chitrakoot, the jungles of Anasuya. Now, his elder brother was wondering what happened. I scolded him. Did he have a mood off? But Maharajji probably wished to savor the life of the ancient sadhus and ascetics in the jungle. And there he lived in a Paramahansa state with no consciousness of his body. So slowly his clothes also fell off. He would eat the fruits and berries, the kandmul, as the ancient sages. Once in a while, he has shared the episodes that took place in that stage of his Leela. So he shared that once there was a yogi there, sitting, who used to sit and practice his sadhana in his hut. And in the nearby village, everybody feared this yogi for his foul temper. By virtue of his austerities, he had developed mystic sadhana, mystic siddhis, and he would scare the villagers with them. So Maharajji, although he was roaming in his forest, but his intrinsic nature for Jeev Kalyan, human welfare, could not resist gracing this yogi. That yogi had gone out of his hut and Maharajji came and took his place. When the yogi returned, he saw a boy, a 16-year-old boy here, and with great fury he said, "Who are you?" Now the Mahapurush knows the inner thoughts of all souls. And Maharajji could detect this soul has got the defect of anger. So he said to the yogi, who had asked, "Who are you?" He said, "Tumhara baap, your father." That infuriated the yogi even further. How dare you? He took on a huge form. Amongst the various yogic siddhis, there's one called Laghima, and one Mahima, become small, become huge. So he kept on increasing his body, and Maharaj did this. He cut the power. So he started shrinking. Now the nature of these mystic powers is that as you use them, they keep on decreasing. And if somebody cuts them, they are gone. So Maharaj did this. It was gone. He then created a huge amount of water which could potentially inundate a whole village. Maharaj kept sitting unmoved and again did this. That yogi now became disturbed. What is happening? He sat down in meditation and communicated with his guru who was in the Himalayas. The guru scolded him, "What are you doing? Don't you know this personality before you is Sakshat Narayan? Beg forgiveness and beseech him for his grace." So the yogi came out of his meditation and fell at the feet of Shri Maharaj and started crying, "Give me back my powers, what have you done?" Maharaj said, "These powers are given for Atma Raksha and Jiva Kalyan, for self-protection and welfare of others. You are utilizing them to scare and oppress the others. Do one thing now. Practice humbleness. Go to the village of Vrindavan. Eat by doing bhiksha once a day. Don't speak to anyone. Chant with every breath, Radhe, Radhe. And these powers will now not be given back to you." So Maharaj spent some time there in the forest. But that was not the purpose of his dissension. So he then started moving out from the jungle. And the first village that came on his way was called Charkhari. In the village of Charkhari, outside was a well where women were washing clothes, filling their pots, and children were playing. A few men taking care of the bulls when they saw this youth, thin and lean, without clothes, with matted hair, with such effulgence and stony eyes that don't seem to make any difference, just walking. Initially, the boys thought he's a madman, and they took and threw stones on him. But slowly they realized he is not crazy. He is beyond bodily consciousness. He is an elevated sage. So great stir got created in the village. Imagine the faith in those days in the people and the reverence they used to have on discovering a saintly personality. So the whole village gathered there. Somebody took Maharaji home, another person bathed him, another person clothed him, and the village women started feeding him. He kept on eating and eating as if he had not eaten for weeks at an end. And then he began kirtan. The villagers started chanting Harinam with him. So chanting Harinam, all of a sudden Maharaji would say, "Ha Sham Sundar," and then faint unconscious. The villagers had never seen this kind of divine ecstatic state of love samadhi. So Maharaj ji started moving forward from that village. Many of them moved alongside with him. And as they would pass by the villages, others would join. A little Kirtan Mandali got created there. In fact, even the animals could not remain unmoved. Anyone who would see would think it seems like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come once again and is displaying these amazing pastimes. From there, Maharaj ji passed by Jhansi in Madhya Pradesh, and finally he reached with the few who remained with him to Vrindavan. Now in Vrindavan, reaching the Leela Sthali of his Ishtadev Radha Krishna, Maharaj ji was in a state of Bhav Samadhi. Nobody would know where he would sleep at night, when he would eat, where he would rest. He would sometimes embrace the trees, sometimes chant Ha Radhe, shout Ha Sasham Sundar, and then faint. And when he would start doing kirtan, they all would feel as if torrents of divine love is gushing into their hearts, filling them with divine bliss. So the Brajbasis, the residents of Vrindavan, they started calling him Bolte Bihari. Earlier on the way, they were calling him Paramahansaji. Now here they started calling him Bolate Bihari. And some others later on started calling him Kripalu Krishna. So those Brajbasis are naturally inclined to bhakti. And the presence of such a saint in their midst, it just sparked off the devotion in their hearts. And a little atmosphere of festivity got created there. This news reached Mathura. A devotee there called Banke Bihari Lal, who had great faith in saints and was always eager to have darshan of great saints if ever he heard of them. He came over to Vrindavan and personally had darshan of Shri Maharaj. So he returned to Mathura. There was a very eminent person in Mathura there, an advocate called Janki Prasad Mathur. He was a very tip-top person. This was the days of the British rule in India. He had a lot of British friends and he would keep up with them. And yet, he had his strong traditional roots and faith and devotion. So Banke Bihari Lal spoke to him about the saint who had come. And alongside with him, Janki Prasad Mathur's brother-in-law called Mithan Lal, an engineer from Agra, had also come over. And there was a fourth devotee who had come from Allahabad called Lakshman Swarup Bhatnagar. So the four of them, they said, we must have darshan. So this story I have related in the past, but I just came to know of little more details which I am adding in this narration. The four of them, they went to Barsana. So Lakshman Swarup Bhatnagar, he had actually also come to witness the Latmar Holi of Barsana. This is a favorite pastime that happens in the land of Radharani, Barsana, where the youth of Nandagaon come. And then the girls of Barsana, they play Holi in a way that is not played anywhere else in the world, where lathis, with sticks, they welcome those youth from the place of Lord Krishna. In memory of the sweet Braj Holi that used to happen at the time of Radha Krishna 5,000 years ago. So these four, they reached Barsana. Holi would have begun at noontime. They had a few hours. They started roaming around the hill and they saw a cave. They found that a light is coming out from the cave, which awoke their curiosity. There was no electricity in that village. Where is the light coming out from? So they went in and found a sage sitting there, a youth with great effulgence. So they had darshan and said, Maharaj, we are blessed to see you. You have got so much of effulgence. We recognize you must be a divine personality. Maharajji turned the topic. He said, have you all brought any food with you? They had got 2 times food for 4 people. So they got it along and put it in front of Sri Maharajji. He finished it all up, as if he had probably not eaten for many days. And then they requested that Sri Maharaj, please come with us to Mathura. Maharajji said, I am not going to leave this land of Braj. No matter how much they insisted, he was adamant. So as they were about to leave, Maharajji said, Tumhari holi to holi. Your holi has already happened. When they came out, they discovered the import of the words he had spoken. It seemed to them that suddenly they were getting colored in the divine Sham Rang and Radhe Rang. They felt that their heart was no longer the same, and it had got colored in love for God and His devotion. Then they suddenly got this inspiration, where are you going? Your Pranvallabh, your Pranadhar, the personality from whom your swarth, your self-interest will be fulfilled, is in the cave. They went running back to him and said, Maharajji, please, we need to take you with us. So they requested, you have come for Jeev Kalyan, welfare of the souls. We wish to have your Kirtan in Mathura. On the name of Kirtan, Maharajji agreed. They arranged for a Tonga horse cart. And Maharajji went and sat next to the driver in front. And they all sat down behind. So as they were going, it is about a little distance from Barsana to Mathura, about 40 kilometers or so. In between, Maharajji asked the driver, Sarthi, stop. So he stopped. They wondered, why is he asking us to stop here? Maybe he wishes to refresh himself. However, he got down and he went and embraced a tree and started screaming, Ha Shyam Sundar, Hey Radhe. They all came running and they realized that he was in a divine state of love. They had read about it in the books. They had even heard that once in a while there are such saints who display this kind of state, but they had never met any such saint. So with redoubled fervor and reverence, they took Shri Maharaj Ji to the house of Janki Prasad Mathur. He had a huge bungalow with many servants, as was the nature in those British times. Now, Lakshman Swarup was given the responsibility of dressing up Maharaj, and Banke Bihari Lal was given the responsibility of informing the friends and relatives. So here Lakshman Swarup, he got a barber. So the barber looked at Maharaj Ji's matted hair and he said, "Kaun sa cut karu? English cut? Should I do English cut?" Maharaj Ji said, "What?" Lakshman Swarup said, "He's saying like the one we have got." "Yes, yes, do it." So the barber gave Maharaj Ji an English cut. And then some servants, they bathed him and massaged him. In the meantime, Lakshman Swarup Ji got some silken dress, like the Goswamis, the priests in Vrindavan. They are habituated to wearing silken dress and silken scarves and etc., headbands. So he got those from the market and Maharaj Ji was dressed up like that. In the evening, some of the guests started pouring in. And Maharaj Ji was sitting on the sofa in the living room. And the guests thought, who's this young boy here? Possibly some relative of our Janki Prasad. They had no idea it was his satsang whom they had come to attend. Now here Banke Bihari Lal came with his wife and children. And when they reached, they started doing Maharaj Ji's puja and arti. That's when everybody realized that he is the star of the evening. So the kirtan began when Maharaj Ji started singing. Because before they heard him, they thought, he's probably another Goswami here. But when Maharaj Ji started singing, they thought, what an astonishingly sweet voice. And then slowly they started drowning in that ras. So in between, Maharaj Ji went into bhav. He started trembling. His body started shaking. The devotees thought, is he sick? But then he was lifting his hands. And then some Lakshman Swarup said, he's not sick, he's in samadhi now. So he lifted his hands further, he stood up and started singing, Hari Hari Bol, Bol Hari Bol. And then he was dancing with the singing. And sometimes he would faint unconscious. So they would rush to hold him, but he was too fast. And then again he would get up. So seeing the swelling of his bhav, all there were drowned in that kind of bhav. So they all went back that evening with the firm conviction they had never experienced such sweet love for God earlier. On their request, the kirtan was conducted the next day as well, and then the next day as well. It went on for 5 days. Then after that, Mithan Lal engineer said, please come to Agra, we'll have your kirtan there. Now the Jeev Kalyan phase of Maharaj Ji's Leelas began. That saint who had savored for himself the sweetest divine love was now creating the vessels to distribute it for others. From there, he went to Allahabad, where he stayed in the house of Lakshman Swarup Bhatnagar, who was an advocate and who was a very elevated soul, probably assisting Maharaj Ji in those past times or becoming his little instrument. So, because of his network, a lot of judges and senior advocates became Maharaj Ji's satsangis, devotees. And there, the kind of chanting that used to happen, it would begin at 8 p.m. And when it would end, nobody knew. Sometimes it would continue till midnight, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or even 6 o'clock. And then, nobody would feel sleepy because alongside with the chanting, they would experience that bliss so alive in their hearts. So then Maharaj Ji would go to sleep. When he would wake up would also not be known, whether it was at 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. or midday. And his state of sleeping was also so astonishing. At that time, he would seem to lose all consciousness. Once he was sleeping in the veranda of the house. So the bedroom allotted to him had a veranda, and the only entrance to it was from the door of his bedroom. He was sleeping there when it started raining at night, and then it started pouring. And all the devotees got worried. What will happen to Maharaj Ji? From the outside they were shouting and screaming. His door was bolted. He continued sleeping in that torrent. And then in the morning when he woke up, they opened the door. They said, Maharaj Ji, it rained so heavily. Maharaj Ji said, yes, on waking up I was wondering that why is my bed sheet wet? You seem to be right. So that was a very sweet pastime of his, when in a few devotees he would distribute Krishna Prem. So there are many, many such episodes. One judge called Raghuvar Dayal, senior judge, he was also Maharaj Ji's devotee. And once he was taking Maharaj Ji in his car out, they were passing by the market. So Maharaj Ji asked for the car to be stopped. He stopped the car and he came out that maybe Maharaj Ji wishes to purchase something. However, Maharaj Ji had his eyes closed and was listening to something, in some thoughts. And then when he opened his eyes, Raghuvar Dayal was standing with the door open. Would you like to go out? Maharaj Ji said, it's all right. Move now. Wondered what it was. He went again on the driver's seat and started driving. But then he asked, Maharaj Ji, what was it? I thought you wanted to purchase something. Maharaj Ji said, did you not hear the song that was being played in the market? There was a song from a movie about a lover telling the beloved, how hard-hearted you are. You have left me like this. Don't you have any pity on me? So hearing that, Raghuvar Dayal thought, I had assumed that he is a saint. And he is relishing this kind of nonsense, rubbish, filmy song about a lover telling the beloved how cruel you are. So later on that evening, he went and told Lakshman Swarup, I had thought he's a saint, but do you know? I discovered he enjoys filmy songs. Lakshman Swarup said, do you even have the intellect to understand an iota of the personality of saints? Have you not heard how the gopis in intense love for Krishna would pine for him in the same way? Oh Shyam Sundar, you have left us here and gone to Mathura. You are so hard-hearted. The saints' drishti, vision is Bhagwanmay. He sees God in everyone and everything. He was relishing the remembrance of his Krishna Leela in that song. So Raghuvar Dayal said, oh my, I made a real mistake. Now out there, his devotees, he would have amongst them, once there was a Rani there in those days. There were 500 little kingdoms in India. So the Rani of one little such kingdom, she was under the influence of her secretary. That secretary was indulging in black magic. She was a tantric. And she had cast a spell on the Rani and brought her under her control. She had extremely foul temper, and she used to make this Rani so scared of her and then utilize her money and her wealth for her own enjoyment. So that Rani came to Shri Maharaj Ji, and Maharaj Ji said, I will come to your home. The Rani said, Maharaj Ji, my secretary, I am scared of her. She has gone to her home in Kolkata. When she returns, what will happen? Maharaj Ji said, doesn't matter, I am coming to your home. So wherever Maharaj Ji would go, the devotees would also follow. They went into her palace, and the devotees, in their enjoyable manner, took it as their own home, playing here, sitting on sofas. Maharaj Ji said, let's start the kirtan. They started the Akhanda kirtan, having a wonderful time. And the Rani's heart was going dhak, 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 dhak. So she would keep on saying, Maharaj Ji, we need to stop this before she comes. She'll be here in 24 hours. Now, Maharaj Ji was not going to listen or be scared of such kind of black magic. The lady came in and she found that something was going on. She was furious. She saw children on the sofa and shouted, how dare you sit out here? Don't you know this is not for you? The children, then she came to Shri Maharaj Ji, saw the kirtan, and with furious eyes she was looking straight at Maharaj Ji, who was sitting on his asana. And he said, Chodel, Bacha, sit down, you witch. She was so scared, she sat down and she looked. So the satsangis continued their kirtan, what's going to happen? She started chanting mantras to throw a spell. Maharaj Ji sitting would do this, cut. Then she would chant a bigger mantra and Maharaj Ji would do this. And she would chant a bigger mantra and Maharaj Ji would do this. Again, these little powers, once they are cut by anyone, they are useless forever for that person. So she went into her room. Maharaj Ji told the satsangis, go and check what she is doing. For a little while, she tried everything in her command. She was doing Shirshasana, headstand, etc. And then finally, she invoked that whatever entity by whose help she used to do the black magic, and started saying what has happened. The entity said, I am helpless before who has come. So she came back and fell at Maharaj Ji's feet and pleaded, "What have you done to me? Please give me back my powers." Maharaj again said, "Look, no power is meant for oppressing people. You have committed a huge offense and you will need to regret for this." The poor lady, she left from there and the Rani was free from it forever. So Maharaj displayed a lot of pastimes there. And then he returned to Mahu. So Mahu was the place where he had studied as a 14-year-old. And he then returned there again as a 20-year-old. So the people of Mahu used to really love him. Last year we had done a retreat, a shibir in Mahu, and we'd gone to those places. I have shared many of these leelas with you. So in the little time, I will just share a few sweet leelas. There was a temple there, the central temple of Mahu, established by the business community out there. So Maharaj started Akhand Kirtan there, Hare Ram Kirtan. The Kirtan was continuing for a week. The devotee said, "Maharaj, how will we continue?" Akhand means it doesn't stop 24 hours. Maharaj said it must continue for the week. Devotee said, "We are a small group." He said, "Don't worry, it will happen." So they were so enthusiastic. In a relay system, it would just go on. And the bliss that was flowing was so sweet that everybody was enthused to be there. Now, the other congregational members who used to come there, they started getting irritated. The trustees of the temple, they said, "What is going on out here? You shout, Ha Radhe, Ha Sham. You need to stop this." Maharaj took it as a challenge. He got the kirtan extended for another week. This irritated the board members further, and they started spreading in the village false things about him. He is a hypocrite, he is a pakhandi, he is a dhongi, he is a pretender. So Maharaj put a board outside the temple. On that he got it written in Hindi, "If anyone removes this board, I will stop the kirtan, Ram, Kripalu, Dhongi and Pakhandi." So these now committee members, they contacted the Gunda of the village. He was a notorious person there. And everybody was scared of his balam. So he was going at night to take out the board when a snake came and bit him. Now this news spread everywhere in that little town. After that, nobody ever dared, and the kirtan continued further and further and further. So after a month or so, the guru of the committee members, his name was Raghavacharya, he was to come. These committee members started saying, "Our guru is coming, he will stay in the quarters in the temple, and we now need you to stop, otherwise he will get disturbed." Maharaj said, "Any guru who is disturbed by kirtan is not a guru, he is a rakshas." They said, "What? You are calling our guru a rakshas? How dare you?" But the guru, when he came and they related what's going on, he said, "Look, you should feel blessed that one young man is continuing kirtan here for a month, and they are chanting Harinam in your temple with so much of bhav, shedding tears, you should consider yourself truly blessed. Now the Guru also started participating, the community members started participating. The whole kirtan extended for 4 long months. Finally, it was to come to an end. So again, a debate arose. The committee members said, for the shanti of the Akhand Kirtan, we will have a yajna, a fire sacrifice. And Maharaj said, look, this is ridiculous. There is nothing beyond Kirtan. The name of God is supreme. For the shanti of the yajna, you can do Kirtan, not the other way around. What to do? He was not willing to budge. So they contacted a scholarly Pandit to come from Kashi, who would engage in debate with Maharajji and defeat him in Shastrarth to prove that at the end we should have the yajna. Now the scholar came the night before the debate was to happen, and Maharajji came to know. So incognito, without telling anyone, he went to meet the scholar and said, I have heard you have come for Shastrarth. The scholar said, yes. So Maharajji said, but these people are presenting this view. The scholar said something, Maharajji cut it. The scholar said something else, again he cut it. With Vedic testimony, shlokas from the scriptures, he kept on cutting. So finally the scholar felt that I am losing out in debate to this young man. Having defeated him, Maharajji left. And the scholar felt so embarrassed. I can't defeat this man. How will I do Shastrat tomorrow? At night itself he disappeared from there. Now there in Mahu, there was an old lady about 65 years old. Her name was Jani Ma. She was a Bal Vidwa. Society in those days was so conservative that sometimes children would be married in childhood and without ever having seen their husband. If the husband happened to pass away, she would become Bal Vidwa. This Jani Ma was one of them, but extremely rich. She had a palatial house. And she had great devotion. She used to come to Gopal Mandir and she would look at Maharajji, bring prasad for him, the Pandit of Gopal Mandir. So one day she requested to Maharajji, will you come to my house? She thought, he is a Brahman and if I can bring him to my house, Maharajji said, definitely. Then she thought, since he's a Brahman, he may not eat my cooked food. So she just kept some dry fruit. When Maharajji came, she offered it. And Maharajji said, what is this? She said, but will you actually eat food that I have cooked? I thought, you are a Brahman, you may not. Maharajji said, of course. Then with great love she cooked. And then regularly Maharajji would come to her house. So one day, she developed great devotion to Maharajji and she would tell him, you are my Gopal. And then one day she said, Gopal, will you help me meet Shri Krishna? Maharajji said, of course. But will you do what I ask you to do? Jani Ma said, yes. Maharajji said, tonight you have to leave your house. You will carry nothing with you. And come to Vrindavan, I will meet you there. Saying that, Maharajji left. Jani Ma, an old lady of 65, started wondering, what have I gotten into? I want to meet Shri Krishna, but if I have to do this, then do I want to meet Shri Krishna or not? But then the call of God and the Guru Agya. So she said, okay, I have to leave. So Maharaj Ji, Pandit Ji, she used to call him. People used to call him. So he has said, don't take anything, but then I must take something. So she took some gold coins and tied them into a bundle, and she left the house open, never to return, following her Guru Agya, did not even hand over the keys or take care of the bank balance. He has said it, I will do it. But Maharaj Ji said, you will come empty-handed. She took a bag full of coins. Now, old lady did not know what to do, how to go asking her way. She somehow or the other reached Mathura. From the station, she said, let me first have darshan of the river Yamuna. And there, she thought, okay, let me take a bath. So she took off her clothes, placed that bundle by the side, the bank, and went into the river. And there she found a monkey has come. So there are a lot of monkeys in that Braj Mandal. The monkey, he did not touch the clothes. He took the bundle that was there and lifted it and sat down on top of a tree. And she is looking, whatever I have left, the monkey is now having it. The monkey looked at her and smiled, and he took one gold coin and threw it into the river. And then before her eyes, the monkey threw all the gold coins into the river. So she realized, my Guru wanted me to be nir-ashray, to remove all ashray and only depend on his grace. Like Draupadi, who was holding the cheer in her mouth, I thought this will be my support. But ultimately, what support can a bag of gold coins give? He has snatched it away. Henceforth, my ashray, my shelter, is him alone. So later on, Maharaj Ji met her in Vrindavan, and he instructed her that you will preach Harinam. She became Maharaj Ji's first pracharak. She did not know how to give lectures. She did not know how to play the harmonium. All she knew was how to chant Hare Ram. And she had created multiple rags for chanting them. So she would sing that kirtan and people would join in. The people who have participated in her kirtan, when I had just started preaching in Kanpur, there was one Shivraj Singh Thakur. I stayed in his house for a long time, and he was relating that such ras used to shower. He would relate that, I was at that time your age. I was at that time 29. So he said, I was at that time your age. He was an ordinary worker in a factory, so he was telling me he would work 9 to 5 and come back in the kirtan and sit all night in the kirtan and go to his factory and then come back and sit in the kirtan. There was such rust, there was no question of sleep. It would go on for 16 days. So those were the days of ras. And then later on the Leela changed. And then the next Leela came and then the next Leela. So we will savor in the limited time some of these relishable pastimes in tomorrow's program. So this 2-day Sharad Purnima festival and Jagadguru Tam Jayanti festival organized by J.K. Yog at the Radha Krishna temple of Dallas, with the participation of devotees from around the world, to relish that Ras Purnima of Lord Shri Krishna and the appearance of a descended divine saint in our planet Earth 98 years ago. We will sing and chant, meditate, remember, hear, and contemplate with the sole objective of immersing our hearts in the sweetest, selfless, divine love for God as the fittest way to celebrate the birthday of such a divine personality. It has been a wonderful celebration today, and we look forward to an even sweeter celebration tomorrow here at the Radha Krishna temple of Dallas. Boliye Bhakti Yog Rasavatar Bhagavad Ananta Shri Vibhushit Jagadguru 1008 Swami Shri Kripaluji Maharaj ki Shri Radha Krishna Bhagwan ki Sharad Purnima Mahotsav ki Radha Krishna Mandir ki Samas Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Jai Shri Radhe Jai Jai